Welcome to the Interior Design Podcast. I'm Hayley Roy, a commercial interior designer with a passion for creating beautiful functional spaces. Over the years, I've worked on a variety of projects and I've accumulated a wealth of knowledge which I'm excited to share with you. I started this podcast because I believe in the power of interior design. So much of what we need to know as designers, you won't learn in a classroom. Whether you're an aspiring designer, tackling your home project, or a seasoned pro, this podcast is for you. Season 2 is here and I couldn't be more thrilled to kick things off with some fresh energy and exciting changes. This season, I'm joined by not one, but two incredible co-hosts, Hannah Denny and Scarlett Mallett. Together, we're diving deeper into the world of design to bring you more perspectives, lively debates, and all the tips and tricks you need to thrive. We're here to offer practical advice, discuss the latest trends, and give you unfiltered, real-world insights. Expect honest conversations, a bit of humour, and maybe even the occasional strong opinion and language. Remember, if it's not fun, we're not doing it. And if you're a sound editor looking for a fun collaboration, let us know. We'd love to have you on board. Thanks for tuning in to Season 2 of the Interior Design Podcast. Hello, and welcome to the Grieve Then Achieve
and the Interior Design Podcast.
We are collaborating. Oh my God, I'm so excited. This is Cat Nuds. Kate Nuds. I call you Cat.
I know, it doesn't matter. Okay. It's actually Catherine, but that's far too long. No one ever calls me that.
This is Catherine. She's in trouble now. Catherine. This is Catherine. And Catherine is a grief counsellor. Or you're about to be, aren't you? You're about to graduate. Yeah,
so I'm a grief coach at the moment, but soon to be a integrative counsellor, but I will be solely focusing on bereavement and loss.
So Kate and I don't know what to call you now. Kat and I met at college when we were 17, 18. I think I was 17, you were 18.
Yes, that's
right.
And
we were both older, weren't we? Because I deferred a year and you deferred 2 years. And we went and did a media studies course.
We did. We were doing this.
I know, right?
20 odd years ago.
I know. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've both now got podcasts, because we had that experience and now we're kind of like, we're going back to that.
Yeah.
And I think it's so cool. I was so excited about kind of getting together with you to do it, because it's like, oh my God, I feel like we're back with the microphone in our hand.
We've gone 20 years back. Hooray!
We're 17 again.
Yeah, I don't think I want to be 17 again. But I mean, I never did anything with the media studies, but now I feel like, it wasn't a complete waste of 2 years.
So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about grieving meets home decor interior design. I've learnt a whole load of things from Kate. Tell us how you got into being a grief coach counsellor.
Yes, well, yes, I was a recruiter for many, many years, so quite a different background. But then my mum had cancer and I watched her die, basically. And I had just the worst grief experience. It was so unexpected. I was absolutely battered by grief. It was like a tidal wave, and it changed every part of me. It changed what I wanted to do for a living. It knocked my confidence. It literally changed me. And the doctor, I went to the doctor about it because I thought there was something wrong with me, because it was sort of continuing. I thought we had her funeral, and then I just expected everything to be fine again, and I thought I'd go back to work, but that didn't happen. And so I went to the doctor, and they gave me antidepressants, and I just wish they'd said to me, Kate, you're grieving. And I had these antidepressants, and it wasn't what I wanted. I didn't really want to go down that route.
Did you take them?
No, I was going to, and then I was humming and hawing about it, and I didn't know what to do. And then I started to look into grief, and I just started to think, like, what am I going through? I think I started to Google bereavement and grief, and then all these symptoms came up, and I was like, wow, why is no one talking about this? Like, it changed every part of me. And I watched other members of the family kind of all went back to work, and they sort of got on with their lives, and I was like, why am I different? What's happening to me? And then I realised, doing more and more grief work and reading more books and talking to more and more people about their own grieving experiences, that it's just so different for everybody. And I was just like, but this is going to happen to everybody, right? We're all going to have some sort of loss in our lives, and there's so much loss. There's pet loss, baby loss, divorce, health loss, finances. We lose so much over a lifetime, but we don't talk about the grieving process that we then go through. And I was like, no, I've got to do something about this, because I just never wanted anybody to feel the way I felt. It was so unexpected. The grief was so unexpected. I didn't equate it to grief, which sounds bizarre, but it wasn't it was only when I started to kind of really learn about grief, I just thought I need to do something about this. So I was already career coaching, so I did quite a lot of education around grief, and then moved over into grief coaching. But I think grief coaching is quite different, very different from counselling. And actually, people, when they're first bereaved or going through a loss, they potentially need more counselling. And then, perhaps further down the line, and with some counselling, when they're in a different space, then coaching. So I would like to be able to take people on a whole journey with me, so that when they need counselling, they can have me as their counsellor. But also, when they're ready for coaching, we can do coaching as well. Mm-hmm. So it's a very long-winded reply, but it's been such a journey.
Lovely. I've seen you go through it, and it's actually so nice that you're helping other people, and you're so enjoying it, aren't you?
It sounds weird, I know, but I feel so privileged to have people sit in front of me and tell me about their grief journeys, and it might be from a month ago, or it might be from 10, 20 years ago, but it's such a privilege to sit with someone who is grieving and to walk that journey with them. I feel so lucky to have found this, even though it was through quite tragic circumstances. I feel like something good came out of something that was pretty horrendous. How did you get into interior design?
I think my interior design journey started when I worked on yachts. I worked on super yachts when I was younger, and I used to help, not necessarily interior decorate, but I used to arrange flowers and arrange table dressings and things like that. And I got to know the owners of the yacht, and I got to know their taste, and I watched them design certain elements of the yacht, and I think that really inspired me. And I was doing a lot of cleaning, which I love cleaning, and I was kind of like just really dressing everything, I suppose styling, really. We were doing a lot of flower arranging, things like that, and I just loved it. And I came back to the UK after 3 years travelling, and then I went to work for my dad, and my dad owned a commercial interior fit out company. So it's sort of almost, I'd come from like a 6-star, and I'd kind of like had to lower my standards a little bit.
And less sunshine, I suppose, as well.
I know. And so we were selling furniture, sort of, a lot of low-end products. But I was meeting clients, I was helping space plan, I was helping do mood boards and things like that. So I was kind of doing that kind of thing. I loved it. And towards the end, when I worked for Dad, I knew that I wanted to have my own business. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I loved interior design, and I'd done interior design courses. So I thought, well, it was kind of the natural progression, and I ended up sort of project managing as well, because I'd been a managing director before. It was kind of like a natural thing for me to do that as well, because I like making things happen, and I'm a bit of a control freak. So then after our business shrunk in COVID, I was kind of like missing teaching people, because I had a much bigger team before. And then my son got diagnosed with ADHD, and I found this podcast called the Adults ADHD Podcast, which I absolutely binged listened to, and I loved them because they were so real and so normal, in my eyes anyway, because I think I've got ADHD too. Well, I know I have. So I listened to this, and what I got from each episode was education. I learned something from every episode. I learned something really, really good that I could take away and use in my everyday life. And I was like, oh my God. And after I'd sort of binge listened to this, got diagnosed with ADHD, and decided that I needed to maybe focus on my interior design career again, outside of my workplace, or like on the road. I decided that I wanted to find an interior design podcast that was going to teach me, like this other one. Could I find it? No. So then I thought, well, okay, let's do it. And obviously the media studies training, well, I only lasted 3 months in my media studies course, but you did the whole course.
I managed 2 whole years. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But I loved that, like that whole kind of, we were kind of microphones in hand and recording
we were.
ourselves.
We had a little tape recorder that we used to carry around.
Massive,
this is all a little bit more technical than what we had, but yeah, it was fun. It was interviewing people, and it was learning about people, and it was being educated by other people. I think that's why I loved it so much, because it was listening to people's lived experiences. Full circle, 20 years later, that's what I do. It just happens to be from a grief perspective. But I remember you telling me about that podcast. Like every episode, you would call me and be like, "You need to listen to this because they're talking about this and they're talking." And I was like, I might listen to it. I don't know if I ever did. But I know you loved it. You were obsessed. Yeah,
I loved it, but it was just because they were so real, and I think that was one of the things I wanted to do with the interior design podcast is not make it. A lot of the interior design podcasts that I've listened to are really good, but they tend to be very kind of interviewing or like, oh, this is a project that you've done, or like talk about someone's career, which is great, but I really wanted to teach people about interior design, so I wanted to teach people about tiles and about fabric specification and how to do this, and we've got a podcast coming up soon about CDM, which I feel really strongly about, because a lot of residential interior designers in the UK don't know that they need to follow the CDM regulations, which is construction design management. It's all very boring, geeky stuff, which interior designers don't really want to do, but it's the law. And a lot of interior designers that I've met who are in resi don't know that. And it's that kind of thing, like I've got so much in my brain that I know. I want to be able to share that. And I also want to be able to learn. So every guest that I come in, I mean, I've listened to your podcast as well, and it's so lovely because, you've got these people who are sharing their experiences. And, I'm like sitting there, I haven't lost either of my parents. And some people are talking about losing their parents. And I think there's this thing with your podcast where people are being really, really honest and open, and actually talking about how they feel about losing somebody. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to go through this. But actually, knowing some of the things that I've heard on your podcast, I kind of feel a little bit more, not that I'm going to ever be prepared to lose parents, but I feel a little bit like, oh, okay, that's what's going to happen. So I know what's going to happen.
That was my problem with it. I just wasn't prepared for grief because I didn't really understand the grieving process and what I would go through. And I didn't realise it would affect my body, my mind, every part of me. So just being able to have these conversations with people, and we are quite open and we're all very vulnerable, but that's the point of the podcast. And I always make sure that the opening part of the podcast says that if you're not happy to talk about death and dying, then please don't listen, because we do talk about it. But there's suicide, I think I've said there's baby loss, there's parents dying, there's also losing parents to dementia. So you've got the anticipatory grief where you're losing them before you actually physically lose them as well. And there's just so many conversations that it just other people out there are going to go through this, and if we're not talking about it, you feel like an island. You just feel like you're the only person, and that you just don't really understand what's going on. So there is that education piece to try and help people know that they're not alone, I think, really.
And we're not, we're all going through the same shit, aren't we, really? I mean, people I think now compared to when we were young, people talk about things a lot more. We were talking about this earlier, weren't we? Like, when we were young, it'd be like, children should be seen and not heard. And now, now my son's got a little pillow with all his emotions on, and you're encouraging him to talk about what emotion it is he's feeling and things like that, which is lovely.
Hooray!
But we were also saying that makes everyone woke. So, like, what do we want? Do we want woke, or do we want to be heard? What do we want? But
I think that's the thing as well. Understanding your feelings, you don't necessarily always have to talk about them if you don't want to, but understanding what you're feeling and sitting with it. And that's part of what we talk about a lot in grief. It's quite alien for us to sit in sadness or anger or whatever's coming up, but actually sometimes you've got to do that, and it's quite hard.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I learned when I had some counselling a few years ago. I was talking about, so my son's father was very absent when he was younger, and I always struggled with the idea of how am I going to help him not get hurt by this. And I remember my counsellor saying, you can't. He's going to be hurt by this, but you just need to sit with him in his pain and be there for him. And then that's the only thing you can do. And I suppose that's the same with grief, isn't it? You just have to sit in it.
You have to recognise it, sit in it,
feel
it. But there's some, there's some things that we can do to be more resilient. but it's I ate my feelings. I didn't recognise my feelings. I didn't know what they were, didn't understand them, and I just ate and drank my way through, and that was my coping mechanism. And it didn't necessarily work, but we all have our own different coping mechanisms. But the fact that we're sitting here talking today about it, how different is that? I mean, it's just brilliant.
It's amazing.
It is.
So we've got cosy blankets.
Yes, we have,
and we've got green. And we're going to talk about grief, and we're also going to be talking about how we can make ourselves feel better by the things that we surround ourselves at home.
Yes.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you about before we start talking about interior design, because obviously that's what I want to talk about.
This is all so different. Like, you talk about interior design, I shut down, I buy new builds, so I have white walls, I don't have to think about it. And we could not be more different, and yet we've been friends for 20 odd years.
I know, right? It's mad, isn't it? But there's I think there's something that you said to me earlier about the 5 stages of grief. I feel like there's this not stigma, but there's this thing that out there about the 5 stages of grief, and actually it's not grief, is it? Can you tell listeners about it?
When I first started, like, what is wrong with me, sort of started looking at grief, it's one of the first things that comes up, the 5 stages of grief. And I started to look into it, and I was like, oh, okay, but I'm not really angry. I can't really be angry that she's died, and I can't be in denial, because I was there. I was part of it.
What are the 5 stages of grief that people always hear about?
So you've got I can't remember the exact order, but there's denial, there's bargaining, anger, and the final one is acceptance. There's another one in there. But the 5 stages of grief, I think, originally came from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who was in palliative care, I believe, and the stages were actually the stages that somebody who was dying would go through, which, once I learned this, it made much more sense to me, because you would want to try and bargain your way out of it. Of course you would, and perhaps you would potentially be trying to deny it as well, and eventually get to acceptance. So I think the 5 stages can be quite helpful, but actually also not, because I read them as if, like, if I'm not angry, then does that mean I'm not grieving properly, or should I be bargaining, and I found it all a bit confusing. Like, it was these are the absolute things you're going to go through, and it's going to be almost in quite a linear process. But of course, as we know with grief, nothing is linear. So you can have all these emotions in a minute, let alone anything else. So it was quite interesting to read about, but it does make more sense for those that are dying that perhaps would go through those stages.
So what could you expect then? Is it sort of like opening Pandora's box?
Yeah, literally, because where do
if that was the right thing to say there? Pandora's box is supposed to be good. It's not Pandora's box, is it?
Well, you just open up you go into a chasm. I mean, you can have any emotion, and like I say, every emotion can come within seconds. I mean, I am 3 years down the line, and I was in WH Smith the other day, and I thought, oh, I'll get Mum that crossword book. No, you won't, Kate. And it's things like that you don't expect. Like, I was, doing my day, going about my day, nipping into WH Smith for something, and then I'm in floods of tears. And I think that is almost the problem with grief, and the bit that we don't really talk about is the emotions come so unexpectedly. It might be a sound, a smell, a memory. The emotions that you have come out of nowhere. And how do you navigate that? How do you cope with that? Because it's really quite, I didn't particularly want to be in WH Smith in tears, so I wasn't expecting to be. So, and that's the thing about grief. But it's also taking the pressure off yourself and going, do you know what? It's okay. I'm grieving. I'm going to be grieving forever. Unfortunately, she's gone forever, and therefore I'm going to be grieving forever. And it's that acceptance. It's going, it doesn't matter. Yes, you are. And I've been through counselling. I've had some great therapy, which has really helped me. I'm a big advocate for therapy, as we know.
A bit of therapy.
but it helped. But it's also just taking that pressure off your shoulders and going, do you know what, you're grieving, and that's okay.
And I think a lot of people, we were talking about this, about sort of what can you do at home, and if you are grieving, one of the things that a lot of people are doing is being quite insular, is what you said, isn't it? And I'm like, well, okay, if you're grieving about something and you're upset about something, and the most if you, and you're stuck at home, I think the best thing you can do is get really cozy.
Yes.
And get
definitely
some cozy blankets.
Yeah.
Make sure you've got lots of oxygen in the air. And
Yeah.
some real plants.
Yeah.
You know, look after yourself and like surround yourself with things that you love
and tactile. It's this blanket is amazing, isn't it? Yeah, it is.
So
and
soft.
it's that metaphorical hug, because you might be grieving on your own, you might not have anybody around you, but if you can have that sort of that softness and that coziness, and you know, we do. I certainly sat on the sofa and cried a lot, and you get very dehydrated because you are in tears the whole time, and you don't think that you're necessarily dehydrated, but you need to keep your water intake up. But also, I just, you know, I wanted something around me that was soft and warm and was that hug that I wasn't getting from a person, but I was trying to get it in other ways.
Yeah, so I'm like really because I've got ADHD. I've learned this in my 40s. I'm quite sensitive, so I really like being comfortable. So quite often I'll get dressed about 4 times in the morning. My husband goes mad because I'm like, I'm not comfortable. I need to be comfortable. So I can imagine, like, well, I mean, I've not lost a parent, but I've grieved a relationship, and you know, there's this thing where for me, I always have like really cozy sofas. I like to have a cozy sofa with lots of cushions and lots of blankets, and like just getting under a blanket and being really warm and wearing really, really cozy clothes, and just watching your favourite movie and like just sitting or even just sitting in front of the fire, you know, just being warm and cozy. I think is really important.
Yeah, it is. And plants are really important. Why do we buy flowers that die for somebody who is grieving? I've never really understood that. Here, have some flowers, and in 7 days' time they're going to be dead. And you're going
not nice.
But it's just something that we all do. And
did you think about that when someone bought you flowers?
It sort of came from that, and then obviously doing a lot around grief, and I just thought, this is ridiculous. Because I wanted to give somebody something, and in the end I gave them a plant because I wanted them to keep, you know, to have something long term. And I went to get flowers, and I thought, hang on a minute, they're going to die. They don't want to look after them because grief is overwhelming. The last thing you want to do is be worrying about whether you've changed the water in your flowers or whatever, and then they're going to die, and it's like, hang on a minute.
But if you do want to buy someone flowers and they're grieving, you can buy dried flowers. Dried flowers last forever. I've got a little video actually that I've not put up yet, but I've did some arranging of dried flowers the other day and videoed it. But yeah, no, that's the perfect example of what you can do. I mean, plants create oxygen, but if you do want flowers, if you want to just brighten someo's day, and they, you know, put it in a vase, then dried flowers are amazing.
They are. And I met somebody that I met her at a networking meeting, and she does artificial flower arrangements. And as soon as she said artificial flowers, I was taken back to the 80s. Those like those, you know, fireplace replacement artificial flowers, just collect dust. And when she said about it, she obviously saw my face, and she went, "No, everyone does the same." And then she brought them out, and I was like, they're artificial. I couldn't believe it. It was a lily, and I would not have known it was artificial.
This is a bit of eucalyptus.
You would never know unless you get up right close to it. But yeah, amazing. So that's something that you could to give that isn't necessarily then going to die in a week's time.
I love that. I've never thought about that.
It's a weird thing, isn't it? It's a very bizarre concept.
So if you have lost someone and you're grieving them, especially if someone's got older or if they've got sick, there'll be a period of time where they wouldn't look themselves as you knew them. So there'll be a period of time where you'll remember them in that way because they weren't well. And I think it would be a really good thing to have pictures of that person around you, lots of them if you want to, of the good times that you've had and the really amazing, the most amazing parts of their life that you remember spending with them, and having those next to your bed, or you know, if you want to say goodnight, you know, if you've lost your partner, you'd probably want to do that. If you've lost your mum, you might want to have it in your living room, in your kitchen, you know, wherever you would have normally phoned your mum. Where would you phone? I would phone my mum in the kitchen and go, "Mum, how do I make a cake? What do I do? That's generally what I'm doing in the kitchen. So if I lost my mum, I think there would be a really prominent place in my kitchen for her. Do you know what I mean? So I think if you've not used to putting pictures on the walls, you can do anything. You can go to Tesco's and you can print out a canvas, or your most favourite supermarket if you're in the US. I don't think they have Tesco's, but in the supermarkets in the UK, you can actually order stuff online, and you can order a canvas for not a lot of money. Or you can print out a photograph and put it in your favourite frame. Or like what would say we're going with my mum. Sorry, Mum. I really don't want you to die yet. Thank you.
Please don't.
But if say we go with my mum. My mum really loves crafting, for example. So I might make a little crafty page for her and put it in a frame and put a photograph of her in the middle of it. So it would be like a tribute to that person. And
it's a memorial place as well.
Exactly.
To
and the
remember them.
flowers that they love and things like that. Obviously not ones that are going to die. But if I love eucalyptus. When I'm dead, everyone can remember me from eucalyptus. I've always got eucalyptus in there. So it's that kind of association, like those things that you remember them for. Have it around you and make the cake that she gave you the recipe of.
That's the thing, and we talk a lot about that in grief, about how you can almost memorialise that person, and they haven't gone because you're using their Yorkshire pudding recipe or you're using their cake recipe, and so they're always with you in some form. They might not be physically with you, but they are with you. But that is one tip. You were talking about photos. Take photos of everything. I wasn't a big I didn't really take photos, but they're all you've got at the end. And now I take photos of everything because
I love
it's all you've got. So, and if you haven't got photos, then and sometimes they can trigger quite sad memories, but a lot of the time they can trigger some really lovely memories that you've completely forgotten about. So yes, absolutely take photos. And you can get those like tiles, can't you? You can make
mixed
tiles. Yeah, you can do all sorts of things now to have memories on the wall or on the mantelpiece or on the table or wherever.
Do you know, my ex-husband did something for his mum, which I thought was amazing, where I don't know where he got it from, but it was a big canvas, and he got photographs of his mum for his mum, and printed out lots and lots and lots of all the photographs that he'd ever taken, and he used to take a lot. So I think it was like this massive canvas just with all her face on it, and she loved it so much. It was so many memories, and you could just sit there watching it for hours and go, oh my god, I remember that, and oh my god, I remember that one. And it's so lovely doing something like that. And I think just generally in your house, like having those memories is so important. I mean, I'm terrible. I've got photographs of everything. Like I take so many photographs. I grew up in a photo processing lab my parents owned when I was younger, so I used to take loads of photographs before digital photographs. And but actually print out the photographs that you got off your phone. So many people just take stuff and they put it on Facebook, they don't put it in their house. And I think when you've actually got a tangible photo in a frame, it means more than it does when it's online.
Yeah, you don't look at it as much, do you? If you're I've got goodness knows how many photos in my phone, but I don't flick back through them. But if it's printed off, you will see it, and you'll see it every day. And when you've had quite a traumatic death, often those memories are with you all the time, and it's trying to replace those traumatic memories with the better memories that you had before that trauma, really.
So you were talking about something earlier that was quite important, I think, when you're grieving, is that room that reminds you of that person. Can you explain?
Yeah, I was saying something that we don't really ever talk about is, especially if you've had somebody die at home, there's that room where they died. It was the last place you saw them, and it can be a really emotional room. And it's at what point do you decide to do something with that room? Do you change it? Do you keep it the same? Do you make that room completely different? Do you try and keep it similar? It's a really interesting question, and of course there's no right or wrong answer because everybody is individual and it's completely up to them. But it's something that we don't ever really talk about, this, the design, and what do you do when you've got a room that's the last place someone was in?
Yeah, I mean, Chris, my husband, his mum died in their downstairs room obviously she couldn't get upstairs when she was really sick, and that used to be her sewing room. She used to be a seamstress, and that room is never really changed in their house, and I think that happens a lot. But it's whether or not you want to make it a shrine to that person, and it might be that actually, rather than keeping it as it was, it might be you paint that room in all their favourite colours, and you put pictures of them up in that room, and you've got a little cosy sofa that you can sit and just think about them, or write about them, or write down memories of who they were, and that now that they're fresh, because memories fade, don't they? And but yeah, you can keep it. I mean, especially like we were talking about this earlier. So some people lose their kids. Yeah. Like a children's room, like how don't oh my god, I can't even imagine what that's like. But like actually having that child's room, I couldn't. I don't know if I could change it. No. Like you just can't. You just shut the door, wouldn't you, and just be like, okay, we're just going to deal with that next time.
And that's the thing. And when is next time?
You just kick that down the road.
Yeah.
But then I suppose actually you might get to a stage where you're feeling a little bit more okay about it, and then you can tidy it,
and you can go in there to remember, so you'd use it as its own memorial. But it's a topic that we don't really talk about. And of course sometimes people have very complex relationships with people, and sometimes that relationship isn't always that great, so you've got that aspect as well when you haven't got a great relationship with someone. What do you do with that? And they die at home, and then you're dealing with all of that grief for that complex relationship, and then do you change that room? Do you change it to something completely different? Or there's just so much to consider around grief, and that's why these types of conversations are so important. There's absolutely no right or wrong. Like everybody is so different, but no one's talking about it. Let's talk about it, because it might happen to you, to me. We don't know what's going to happen next, and it's a consideration, something we hopefully don't ever have to talk about, what you do with that room, but we might. I struggle to go into the room at my parents' house where my mum died. I really struggle.
Was it their bedroom?
It was no, it was a downstairs. It was turned into a bedroom, so we had a hospice at home. So we had the carers come in, and they did I think what they call a virtual hospice. Especially it was over COVID time as well, so they didn't want us in and out of the hospice. And it was great for us because it meant that we were together at home with my mum. But I struggle to go in that room now, and it's not really changed. It's everything is still the same. The hairbrush is still on the side. My dad hasn't really touched it at all, and that's his way of coping.
I think it would be something that you don't have to deal with. That
Absolutely.
You just leave, because actually that's going to upset you.
Yeah. And I know people struggle with moving as well, because that's another change. So this might be further down the line, but or some people might not even be able to afford to stay in the same house because they've lost a financial partner, and so then they have to move, and so they're leaving all those memories behind, and that's another loss. So you're grieving the loss, and then you're grieving again because you're having to move home, possibly not through choice, or maybe through choice, but you're still leaving. You feel like you're leaving the memory behind, so it's like another grieving process that you have to go through.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit because I've got ADHD, and I've just like totally outed myself here because I've never said this on the podcast before.
I feel so privileged.
I know, right? I feel like I can talk to you. Yeah, because I have. I think one of the things that I've got, which is really, really helpful about the way my mind works, is that I'm like out of sight, out of mind. So I think that my initial way of dealing with grief in any situation is to just move forward and leave it all behind.
It's called denial. It's one of the stages.
I'm in complete denial for a long time, and then it just catches me up a few years later.
That's the thing with grief. You cannot outrun it. It'll come and get you at some point, and it will bite you on the backside.
Yeah, I agree with that, definitely.
Nice try though.
Yeah,
I mean,
but that's kind of like my instant reaction is to like, I would be like painting the walls in the room and like going, right, move on, come on, let's go, move on. But and then that would be my way of coping, and then 5 years later I'd be like, I want the room back the way it was.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you've made those changes.
Yes, I suppose you have to be mindful about it. So you know, if you have got a room that you're not sure about, just leave it until you are very sure. Don't make any rash decisions. Don't make any, like me, because I'm full of ADHD, so I would do that.
Well, they say don't make big decisions, don't they, when you're grieving? But I decided to upend my whole life, change my career and everything, because for me, I like change. So although, you know, it was a horrendous situation, it made me change everything. And I say, you know, if some people, grief can be a catalyst for growth. It can make you make some huge changes in your own life.
I think it makes you realise that life is short. I used to know a lady called Leela, and she worked in the interior design industry in the UK. She was always the life and soul of the party, and she was only 28, and she died in I don't know what happened. I never really got to the bottom of it. I'm not very close to the family. I went to the funeral and there was a lot of people there. She was so young, and I didn't realise how young she was actually. But the one thing I took from that is, like, she was always there. Like, whenever I went networking in the industry, like, she was just always there. She was like my wing woman. She was amazing. But then all of a sudden she wasn't there, and she was so young. Like, she was younger than me. So I was going, oh shit, you know, life is short and you've got to make the most of it. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people do change. Because they realise you're not on this planet for very long, are you? And you've got to make the most of it, and, you know, and also that's one of the things with like all the things in your home as well. Like, you're not here for very long, so, like, why not make your home really lovely? Why not make your surroundings something that you really love? And one of the things that I say when I'm doing a design for somebody is, if you don't love it, I don't want you to have it. Like, you need to love it. You're going to live with this for a long time, and I do not want you to be swearing about me in a few years. So you need to love it. You need to, like, really connect with the things that you've got around you. And I think that's, for me, whenever I have like a drastic thing happen and a change, I always like to decorate. Like, quick, change it. And, you know,
shall we talk about that from a therapy perspective?
Yeah, go on then.
What is it about the change? What does that mean for you?
Oh, I don't know. I just love change. I'm like you. I love change. I love things to move. I don't like standing still. So I like things to move and to grow. Like, I'm constantly going, oh, I must get new frames for that, and I must do this, and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, and for me, if I've got a picture in a frame that's faded, like, it's a massive issue. Like, I'm like, oh my god, it's got to change. And, you know,
we haven't got enough hours for this.
I love it. Since Kat's become a counsellor, she's properly counselling my arse. She's like, have you thought about why you think that? And I'm like, oh my god, I love it.
Because you can't counsel your friends, but I just make you question things. That's all it
is. Why is it that you like change so much? But no, you love change.
I do love change. Like, I do. I love it. I remember an old boss said to me once that she said to me that you don't like change. And I was like, you have absolutely got me wrong. And I think, I wonder if I should take that to therapy, because I feel like I'm battling against that all the time. Like, I love change. Change is, for me, change is growth. But I'm sure it
might be similar to me, because you're quite similar to me. I love it when things change, when I'm in control.
But you've got...
if someone else is like, this is going to change, and you don't want to do it, it's like, what?
I was going to get to that about change in general, and, you know, who's making those changes?
Yeah. Me. They're fine. Those ones are fine. That's why I run my own business. Obviously, my clients tell me what to do, and I embrace that.
But I suppose you educate as well, though, don't you, with that?
Well, I like to think, I mean, it depends on the client, but I mean, I've got a client at the moment who I'm helping her make informed decisions. So the client I've got is really creative. She's amazing. She hasn't got time to do the interior design, but she wants to be really, really involved. So I'm basically saying to her, she's coming to me going, I'm thinking I'm wanting green tiles in the toilet. What do you think? And I'm going, right, yes, this, if you do this like this, the psychology behind it is this. So for example, I don't know about green tiles in the toilets, but furniture. So if you have really hard seats it won't feel very comfortable, but it might be something that you want to create a behaviour around. So, for example, if you don't like guests in your house,
hard seats all the way.
Your chair's really comfortable. The others are not. They won't stay very long. So, like in a restaurant, if you
want in and out, I suppose, quick turnaround.
Pizza Express do this in the UK. Hard seats, and they turn the tables.
Don't get comfy.
Yeah, they turn the tables, and things like the Noodle Bar in Colchester. One of the ones that we've done recently is on my blog if you want to see it, and on all the socials. The YouTube channel as well. Sorry, got to mention YouTube. Their furniture is hard, and they were talking about they extended the restaurant because they bought the property next to the restaurant, adjacent to it, and they knocked through, and they were talking about having more comfortable seating. And I said to them, "Oh, you need to be careful about this, because if you have more comfortable seating, people will stay for longer." And the first thing they said to me was, "We turn those tables 5 times every weekend."
Wow.
In one day. So it's like, well, if you want to carry on doing that, just know that the comfortable seats that you've got might not turn as quick as the other ones, you know. And there's a psychology behind that. And you know, if you're grieving and you want to be left alone, just get rid of the furniture and get some really uncomfortable chairs. And make your sofa like a little epiphany of comfort and luxury, and just look after yourself in that. Make sure you've got a little table, like a little nest of tables next to you, so you can put your bottle of water or your peppermint tea or whatever it is that you need to have to keep you hydrated, because that's bad.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's something you never think about, but you lose so much through tears. And actually, again, something I learned through grief is that the tears are good for you. There's a chemical in the tears that can, I want to say, no, I can't remember. There's a particular chemical that if you've been crying for a while, it can be quite soothing. The tears are actually the chemical in the tears is quite soothing. I need to read up on it more because I'm not explaining myself very well. But yeah, it's endorphins. There's almost like an endorphin that
it's like a hormone, isn't it?
Like comes from the tears. So and we often try and stop people crying because we can't handle our own emotions when we see someone else in sadness or whatever the tears are for. But that it don't stop someone. Let them. If someone is sad, let them cry.
People say it, don't they? Don't cry.
Yeah, no, you're told. You're always told to squish it down all the time, or we touch, and that's again a sign of almost stopping.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because you're almost saying like don't do that. Stop doing that. But actually,
what about hugging? I'm a hugger.
You're a hugger. Not everybody wants to hug either.
I love hugging.
Some people can really struggle with hugs because of their previous experiences. So ask. The best thing to do is ask.
Can I hug you? What do you
Would
need?
you like a hug? Not can I, because it's not for you. It's for them.
Do you know what? One of the things that me and my husband say to each other is, what do you need?
Yes, exactly that.
And I love that, because you go, I just need you to tell me it's all going to be all right, or I just need a hug, or I just need to be left alone, or whatever it is. If someone asks you what do you need, you've then got the opportunity to think about what you need, because actually you might not know.
Well, and with grief, sometimes you're so overwhelmed you absolutely don't know. Like, leave me a lasagna on my doormat. Don't expect me to come to the door. I don't know what I need. I'm so overwhelmed with everything that's gone on. I'm processing. Like I don't have the capacity to tell you what I need because I don't know what I need, but I know I'm going to need to eat at some point. So please just leave something for me. Come round and hoover the lounge, do something practical, because I'm not necessarily going to be able to tell you what I need.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's a functional thing. If you're grieving and you're struggling with grief, like actually being able to function is going to be a problem. So actually someone coming into your house and helping you in some way, like making you dinner or like hoovering your lounge. Yeah. That's what you can do. Yeah. And give someone a blanket, not a plant that's going to die.
Exactly that. A big, squishy, warm, comfy blanket. I mean, that in itself, that sounds lovely, doesn't it? And not a plant, not some flowers.
Something that you can wrap them in and give them a hug, even if they don't want a hug.
Exactly that. Exactly.
Thank you so much for coming onto the. I'm going onto the podcast, but actually it's your podcast too.
It's our podcast.
So thank you for listening to the Interior Design Podcast meets
Grieve Then Achieve
podcast, and we hope that you've got something out of this and that you've enjoyed it. and that we can help you help others, or help you help yourself.
And look at this beautiful studio. How exciting is this? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Like and subscribe.